Okay, so here's my next project locomotive. It's the K4 Pennsylvania. The number of this one is the 1361, which is semi-famous. It's known as the Spirit of Altoona. It's one of two remaining K4s in existence. This one, of course, ran during its service career and had a very, very brief comeback in the late 80s, during 87 and 88. Supposedly it suffered some type of mechanical failure and is now in many pieces scattered throughout the state of Pennsylvania. So it may run again, possibly, but there's a lot of debate on that, and I'm not going to get into speculation on that. That's something you can look up on your own time. Some of the videos that are on YouTube, there's actually one of this engine running with the Q2 whistle, which sounds awesome. So be sure to check that out. Sadly, this is probably one of the finer remaining steam locomotives that are left from the Pennsylvania, because unfortunately we have no Q2s, we have no S2s, we have no M1s, we don't have a J1, we definitely don't have a T1, though someone is trying to build one. Unfortunately, most examples of the really high-class Pennsylvania steam are no longer in existence. So this is kind of the finest, if you can say that, finest remaining example of the Pennsylvania Railroad that exists as far as steam goes. And someday it may run again, hopefully. But a little bit more about the actual model here. This is a Bachmann Spectrum, which has some pretty nice packaging on it, actually. The tender comes in its own little separate section here, and of course it has the label on here, which this has what they call the modern pilot on here, which is, I guess, in the late 50s they actually changed that piece a little bit here. It's kind of hard to see, but it does have a slightly different front end on it versus some of the other earlier K4s. So I'm going to put TCS WOW in it. It's a DCC already ready engine. With TCS in there, I think it's going to sound pretty good. Just in the little bit that I've gone through, show the install here in the next video. Been pretty happy with their decoders. I mean, the slow speed performance of it has been actually pretty impressive. It runs just as nice as a Broadway at the slower speeds. As far as the actual performance, pulling power, there'll be another video that's a little bit more telling about that part and my thoughts on that. So we'll be on to the install here next. Okay, we're just doing a K4 Bachmann sound installation here. I'm using the TCS WOW with KA2 on it. For the speaker, it takes actually a 1-inch speaker, which I actually happen to have a spare one, and it's actually one out of an Intermountain ES44. Removed this to put in one of those Railmaster DSM 8s. So I have one of these laying around spare. It's actually a 4-ohm speaker, but the great part is the TCS is able to run a 4-ohm speaker. So actually it was almost an exact fit there. So I just basically just glued it on there almost upside down. There's actually kind of a pre-cut hole there, and they actually recommend a 1-inch speaker. So, and then just has your standard 8-pin harness here plugged into it. So all this just needs to be tucked up inside the shell here, and then it's ready to go. So I'll make another quick short video once we have that finished. Alright, we're going to do some quick run-bys here with the K4. One thing I have noticed with this engine just before we started recording here is I tried running 6 heavyweight Bachmann passenger cars with it, and it actually got stuck. In fact, it actually has trouble with as little as 1 or 2 of them. So part of it is I don't exactly have the most even track here. I'm just laying on carpet for something quick and easy here. But the pulling power is not very great on this engine, at least compared to others that I've run here. So I don't know if maybe the loco shell could be taken apart and have some weight added in there. I don't know what I would guess more weight would probably add to pulling power, but I'm not sure how much room is in there to actually try something like that. So, without further ado, here we're going to show off the TCS WOW. So hit the power here. Also, one other thing I noticed here is that the headlight is actually very, very dim. So I'm probably going to replace that with an LED that's something brighter as well. But not right now. That's a horn. Whistle, my bad. That sounds awesome. One other thing I have noticed on this engine is depending on the load, you'll actually hear the volume either increase or decrease. And part of that is because right about here, it actually starts to go on a little bit of an uphill. So you actually hear the chuffs get a little bit louder. And once it reaches the top of the circle there, you'll actually hear them quiet down. So right about here, it's actually going downhill. So it actually quiets down a little bit. And so on. So that's due to the back EMF setting on there. So based on load, it will actually increase the loudness of the chuffs. So, still obviously needs some work, both on the lighting and also on the weight, so we can increase the pulling power on this thing a little bit. Because as it stands, I'd probably either need to double head this or back it up with some diesel power in order to actually be able to pull a full 6 or 7 car train. Because it's just not strong enough as is on its own. Perhaps it would perform a little bit better on an actual level layout, but for my little improvisation here, doesn't really have the power to pull it.